All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our next episode of Pathways to Energy Efficiency. Today, we're going to be talking about the ins and outs of energy audits, what they look like, and we have a special guest joining us today. But first, previously on Pathways to Energy Efficiency, we started off with an episode on who we are as community energy advisors. So you've seen Jennifer Perry and Catherine Ripstein, me today. We are your community energy advisors. We cover different territories up here in the North Country. And we can help you with all of your energy needs, help connect you to resources and programs that'll help you become more energy efficient in your home. From there, on Tuesday, August 18th, we talked about energy efficiency 101. So what it means to be energy efficient and the benefits that being energy efficient can provide to you as terms of comfort and reducing your utility costs around your home. And so that's leading us really nicely into our next section, which is talking about the energy audit. But before we get into that, just wanted to put our contact information up there for you today. Once again, I'm Catherine Ripstein. I cover Jefferson and Lewis counties, and you can reach out to me at any time with any questions you may have via email or my phone number. With us is Jennifer Perry as well. She covers Clinton, Essex, and Hamilton counties, and her contact information there. And finally, Nick Hamilton Honey, who covers St. Lawrence and Franklin counties, and Nick's contact information is up there on the screen as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Perry to introduce our guest today.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon. Again, Jennifer Perry from the Adirondack North Country Association in Saranac Lake. And I'm extremely pleased to have Jen Monroe joining us today. I've been working with Jen for a lot of years, spent some time with her in a car, and have had a great opportunity to get to know Jen and her approach to energy efficiency work. Jen is extremely committed to people and making people's lives better. I've always been impressed with her philosophy and work ethic around the world of energy efficiency. She will do a fantastic job explaining the world of energy audits, as she has done many of them in the North Country. Jen has developed an innovative and very effective business model to really help people to get through the whole entire energy efficiency process, from the beginning part where you think you want to do something to improve your home, all the way through to the end where you complete an energy audit and have some upgrades to improve your home. So some quick slides to share with you from Jen's website, and she will elaborate as she digs into her conversation, just to talk about the home as a whole entity, and almost like a living entity, a living being, to analyze and determine how heat leaves and how cold permeates in. Here's an example of a picture of a home with icicles, which is really pretty, but not necessarily a great thing, because that means that heat is leaving your home. Here's Jen doing what's called a blower door test, which is a diagnostic test to determine how leaky your home is. Something that if you do decide to contact her for an energy audit, you will get to see her do. And Jen does a really great job as well explaining the benefits of doing energy efficiency upgrades and having an energy audit, in terms of improving your comfort, keeping your energy costs down, and just making your home an overall happier place to be. So again, without any further word from me, here is Jen Monroe, and I'm happy to hear more from her.
Thanks, Jen. I am Jennifer Monroe. I've been doing home energy audits almost 8 years now. I've done over 700 of them throughout the North Country, and I really do enjoy what I do. It allows me to meet all sorts of people all over the place and really help people be more comfortable in their homes and save money on their energy bills. And it helps the demand for energy efficiency work is creating green local jobs for people in the North Country. So there's really no losers here, which is part of why I love it. So what is an energy audit? It's a comprehensive home assessment. I'm in every nook and cranny of the house, attic, basement, and pretty much every point in between. And the on-site part is the information gathering stage of the process. A lot of times people, want to jump ahead and know the results, right while I'm still in their house. But that's, I always tell them that's the next stage. that's the report part of the process. But the on-site portion takes 2 to 3 hours, and I have a rough outline of how I do things. It's not always in the same order every time, just depending on the house and how involved the homeowner is. But I always start outside. Well, first I go introduce myself to the homeowner and then leave them there and go outside and do a trip around the outside of the building where I get pictures and measurements, and it really allows me to get to know the house without the homeowner telling me everything they want to tell me right off the bat. So that way I at least have my bearings. I have a map of the house drawn out, and then I go inside and get started with the homeowner. But also when I do the walk around, I'm just looking for red flags, in the winter, looking where there's ice buildup, because the bigger the icicles, the more heat loss there is. Looking for vent terminations for things like dryer vents and bathroom exhaust fans, looking at chimneys where appliances vent out, and just anything else that jumps out at me. And it's so important to take lots of pictures because you think you're going to remember everything, but then there's just so much. So the more pictures, the better. And then once I go inside, I start with the homeowner interview, which I know a lot of auditors like to do at the end, which didn't ever really make sense to me because you can learn a lot from the people who are in the house all the time, way more than 2 to 3 hours of you being in their home. So they'll know where the cold spots are in the winter. They'll know if the upstairs is sweltering hot in the summer. They may not necessarily know why these things are happening, but they know where the drafts are. They know where the ice builds up. They know if their basement's wet. So, really asking the questions and just letting them tell you whatever they want to tell you. Some of it may be totally unrelated, but you get some gems in there once they open up. And really, it's just getting the trust of the homeowner, and I don't know what the magic bullet is for that, but dog treats help. If they have a dog, you win over the dog, you win over the person immediately. But no, just really just listening to them, and they have a reason for calling. It may just be because somebody else told them to do it, but and as long as they know I'm evaluating their house, but I'm not judging their housekeeping skills or, seeing how much clutter they have, and people get really worried about those things. So I just tune all that out, and I'm really focused on looking at, how to make this house more energy efficient. So, and then also with the homeowner interview, I start with their fuel bills and their electric bills. So I know from the get-go how much they're using, if it's and then, after a while, what's high and what's not for that size house. So, and often there's multiple fuel types, they heat with electric in this room, and they have a monitor heater in this room and a furnace, and then the wood stove, and, North Country houses rarely have just one heating source. And then and also when I'm at their kitchen table or wherever we're having the conversation, I do all the applications with them. Occasionally people have applied for the audit before they contact me, but usually I'm the first step in the process. So I have all the applications with me, and there's, a slew of them for all the different programs. And then I get their income documentation, their fuel usage, whatever else I need right when I'm in their house. And that makes the whole process so much smoother. And, even if it's just taking pictures of documents, if they don't have a way to copy things, and it's, if they're not email savvy, then, gathering the information just becomes so much harder after the fact. And then another thing to ask about is frozen pipes, which happen a lot. There's a lot of crawl spaces or like inaccessible areas where cold air is coming in. And so that's just another red flag, another place to go look at once I get into the attic and basement. So after the homeowner interview part is done, then I go around and have to measure all the doors and windows. So that really gets me a tour of the inside of the house, just do a continuous loop all the way around. And then again, if the homeowner's involved, as you go room by room, they'll be pointing things out. And then the attic is usually next. Most houses have some sort of attic access, and people are constantly telling me, oh, you don't want to go up there. Or, you know, you can't walk up there. Like I have not been in hundreds of attics, which is another peculiar piece of all of this. But I don't necessarily have to go through the whole attic. I just have to get my head up there. You know, so sometimes I'll walk around depending on what I see. But the most important thing is to identify how much insulation is up there, what kind of insulation, and then also looking for things like if bathroom exhaust fans are venting into the attic instead of out of the building, which happens quite frequently. Looking for attic ventilation, soffit vents, ridge vents, roof vents, gable vents. A lot of times homeowners don't understand why ventilation is needed, but you want the top of your building envelope to be insulated, but then you want outside air to be able to pass above the insulation. So, and again, lots of pictures, you know, pictures in all directions, sticking a tape measure in the insulation to show how much is there, and then any other oddities that I come across. And then from the attic, I usually go down to the basement and cool off. And again, just pictures of everything, checking out insulation, if there's insulation in the ceiling of the basement, in the rim joists around the perimeter, on the foundation walls, and then also figuring out if there's any crawl spaces around, because a lot of times you go down into a house and you think you're under the whole house, but there's, you know, other sections that were built on at different ages that might not have a full basement. And that's something lately we've been running into a lot of. So the crews have to literally spend days digging out crawl spaces so they can fit into to insulate them. So, and then also usually the heating system is in the basement. So I test any combustion appliances for efficiency, CO, make sure they're drafting properly, and then do a CAS test, which is combustion appliance zone testing, to make sure that when everything in the house that sucks air out, so your heating system, your clothes dryer, your exhaust fans, if everything was on at the same time, you want to still make sure you have enough pressure difference to get your exhaust from your heating system or your water heater up and out of the house. So there's a lot of health and safety things, you know, built into the audit, as well as saving people money on their fuel bills. What else? Other health and safety items, just making sure they have smoke detectors and CO detectors in working order with batteries that are not more than 10 years old. If it's a house heated with propane or natural gas, I'll check for gas leaks. What else? Oh, and also looking for any asbestos, ALM, asbestos-like material. Sometimes there'll be boiler pipe wrap or vermiculite in the attic are the most common forms. And looking for knob and tube wiring, because if there's any of that still in place, that will have to be replaced before insulation can be added. And then the last step of the on-site audit is the blower door test, which it quantifies the amount of air flowing through your fan, through the blower door fan in cubic feet per minute. So since I have the measurements of the building, I can figure out the volume of air that's in the house. And then there's a formula that will tell me what the building airflow standard is for that particular house. And then the blower door is used to see how far above or below that that standard. And the building airflow standard is the point where you have enough natural air changes to not need mechanical ventilation, but then as houses get tighter, it becomes more important to make sure you have enough air changes in the house. So things like exhaust fans work if it's just below BAS, and then there's a minimum ventilation guideline, which is 70% of BAS, and at that point, mechanical ventilation would be required. So that's things like heat recovery ventilators or energy recovery ventilators that exhaust inside air, pull in outside air, but condition the air as it passes. So you're not just pumping out warm air and sucking in cold air in the winter. You're conditioning that, moving the heat over to the air that's coming in. And then as well as getting the blower door number, that the blower door fan also magnifies any drafts. So, and it's also a big eye-opening tool for the homeowner, because, you know, they know there's a draft coming from blah, blah, blah. But then when you really feel it, like I literally make people put their hands there, like feel this draft. And it's really eye-opening, and it never gets old. You know, every house is different. That's part of why I like this job is, you know, you never know what you're going to find. You can make assumptions, but that fan really finds things that you don't see just with your eyes. And then I can also, with a second manometer, check room by room to see how leaky each room is with respect to the house. And that helps the crew target where to do the air sealing. So that is about it for the on-site part. And then the fun begins. Then I have to enter everything into a modeling software, all the existing conditions, you know, the square footages, existing insulation, blower door number, heating system information, and the software will spit out how much fuel it thinks the house should be using. And then I have to match it up to what it actually is using. The thing I didn't mention with the on-site part is also looking at appliances, especially refrigerators and freezers, which are the biggest electricity users in the house. And then asking questions like how many loads of laundry they do in a week, how many times the dishwashers run, do they wash in warm or cold water, and all those things get plugged into the modeling software. And it usually is pretty close to accurate what it spits out as the estimated usage. If you get all the information at the audit. If you don't and you have to start making things up, it just, you know, makes things harder all around and you get less accurate savings predictions. So, and then the report process. So I work with 2 different contractors. So depending on which contractor is linked to the homeowner, you know, I have all of their prices. I go over the work scope with them before I send it to the homeowner. So then the homeowner will get a report saying, you know, these are all the recommendations for your home. This is how much each thing will save, or how much it will cost, how much it's estimated to save, and then what the payback period is. So, you know, it's broken out in almost too much detail. You know, you have your attic insulation, your spray foam on rim joists, spray foaming foundation walls, and, you know, dense packing exterior walls if they're uninsulated, and everything will have its cost and its estimated savings. And that's kind of the decision-making process for the homeowner a lot of times, because they know there's a lot of work that needs to be done. They may not be able to afford to do everything, but this will, you know, give them a way to decide what to move forward with. And then I'm also involved, you know, as far as helping them fill out applications for incentives or financing, helping them figure out which package will work with the financing, because it all comes down to estimated savings. And then once everything's approved, then the contractor gets involved. They go in, they do the work, which is the easy part of all of this. And then after it's done, I go back and do a post inspection or a test out and get a final blower door number, you know, retest the CAS to make sure things haven't been tightened up so much that then you have drafting problems, and just make sure that everything in the work scope was done. Yeah, and usually once people have a positive experience, they tell somebody else, and that's how I've been going for almost 8 years. You know, the majority of the leads are just somebody telling somebody else, and it just keeps going. So I just make the whole process as simple as possible for the homeowner, and the rest of it almost takes care of itself. So that is my energy audit process in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions? You want me to elaborate on anything specifically, or?
Well, first of all, thank you for joining us, Jen. I guess my question would be, what do you typically find is the fix that most homes need? What provides the most energy savings?
Well, warm air rises. That's the basis of all of this. So you want to stop it from escaping at the top of the building. So attic insulation is pretty much #1 across the board. If it's a nice open attic flat, that's the easiest situation. Insulate the flat, have ventilation above it. But then there's, you know, sometimes there's slope ceilings that may or may not be able to be dense packed. Sometimes people are willing to open up ceilings so that the roof deck can be spray foamed. But really stopping the air from escaping at the top of your building envelope is number one. And then as you know, warm air rises up and out, cold air comes in at the low point. So you want to spray foam the rim joists. There's a foot of wood where the house sits on the foundation, which is a prime location for cold air coming in. So you have this constant, you know, cold air coming up and going out. So you want to put the hat and boots on the building, stop it from escaping at the top and stop the cold from coming in. And then, so pretty much every house that has attic access is getting insulated. You know, basements are being spray foamed, crawl spaces especially. And a lot of times they need to do some digging to get to them, or, you know, remove rocks from a foundation wall because there's an inaccessible space. So really going above and beyond just what's easy to insulate in the basement. And then air sealing can be done in pretty much any house unless it's already super tight. So that really has the highest savings, I think, for the effort. And it's not always doors and windows, you know, poor windows have such a bad rap. Like everybody thinks their windows are the problem, and they almost never are, but they're glass. So they're always going to be colder than the rest of the house. You know, even if it's a brand new triple pane window, it's still not going to be as warm as your insulated wall right next to it. So, and it's really just pointing those things out to people, like, all right, here's your drafty window. You know, do you feel any air coming through it when the fan's on? And often they don't. This is kind of not answering your question, but the air movement that people feel around windows is a lot of times a convection loop. So again, warm air rises, so it's going up, it's hitting the top of the window that's cold, and then it's dropping. And then it gets down to the floor and gets heated up and comes back up. So you've got this loop just of air moving around inside the house. It's not necessarily coming through your window, it's just a result of having a cold window.
Excellent. Thank you. That's good information. Okay, any other questions?
No, I just want to add that I have gone through this process. I've worked with Jen personally in my own home, and I just can't say enough about how important it is. It's usually free, and you learn a lot about your home, and it really can be a game changer for your entire household. So.
Right, and the one thing I didn't add in is the comfort factor, because when I first started doing this, I was calling people after a year to find out, you know, how much they're really saving, and it was like people didn't even care. Like they didn't know and they didn't care. They're just like, but the drafts are gone and the whole house is the same temperature. I'm like, but how much are you saving? And it's like that becomes secondary. We spend so much time and energy fixated on the savings, and what stands out to people is they're more comfortable in their own home. And there is no SIR for comfort, but there really needs to be a way to quantify that, or, you know, but people also don't believe it until you have to feel it. You know, you can say, we're going to make your house more comfortable, and then, you know, they've been living there 25 years and it's always been cold in this room, and they just think that's always the way it is, and then it changes, and it's like, you know, just a big eye-opener, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing to point out, is the comfort value. Very all right. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, Jen. You really brought a lot of information today to the table about energy audits and how they work, and what they can do for us. So quick note about energy audits. All New York State residents can get a free energy audit, no matter who you are. And so moving on into our next weeks, we're going to be going over, so Jen told us a lot about the energy audit process itself. So everyone can get one for free, but those energy upgrades and financing those energy upgrades, we're going to talk about programs that are available to help you not just get an energy audit, but also finance the energy efficient upgrades that come after. And so tune in next week on Tuesday to find out more about each of those. And thank you so much, and have a good afternoon.